What's up, everybody? Welcome for GZ Radio. I'm Max Mariotti, joined by my colleague.
Hi, I'm Riley Melia, and I'm not qualified for this, but I'm doing it anyway. So here we go.
We are both very passionate about sports, and it's kind of something that GZ Radio hasn't really covered too much. So we're here to provide a little bit of insight and just information on. I think today we're going to be talking about the NFL and the season and the somewhat of a big deal game that's coming up
Just a little
this
bit.
weekend. Just a little game.
Yeah.
Riley, if you want to kick it off.
Yeah, who do we want to start with? Do we want to just start with the hometown, the Seahawks?
Yeah, let's do it. The Seahawks, for a little bit of context, is my favorite team. Riley's a 49ers fan.
Indeed.
So yeah, let's talk about the Seahawks. Kind of a season in review. How do you think they did?
I think the back half of the season they did awful. If I'm being totally honest, Russell Wilson did not live up to the MVP hype.
No, I agree. As much as I love the Seahawks, I mean,
yeah, week 8 he was the guy for MVP, and now Derrick Henry's above him. But Derrick Henry's a freak.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking to my dad about that yesterday. We're convinced that he is not human.
Russ always does that though. He always has a bad back half.
I know, it's crazy because I love him so much, but he just chokes. But the beginning of the season, man, they started off strong.
They start off really hot. And then they lost to Colt McCoy, which I'll never let you live down.
Yeah, I know. No, they lost pretty badly, but in the beginning of the season, let Russ cook. I mean, he just had their defense was terrible in the beginning of the season, but they actually kind of picked up momentum in the back half, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, although I really do think Quandre Diggs is the most overhyped player possibly in the league. There's no way he should have gotten Pro Bowl. Although, Pro Bowl isn't exactly something to gawk at. It's not. Fans shouldn't have a vote. Fans should not have a vote over who the best players are. Yeah.
I mean, I personally agree with you, and I think it should be boiled down to record and stats in choosing that. But and I do think that as much flack as Jamal Adams got for being a blitz boy, which I thought was a little bit too overdone, because I think he is a good player. The fact that they're calling him a weapon is a little bit much. I think he's a great safety, but I don't know if he's like.
I mean, he's a guy who, personally, I think they should. Since KJ Wright is leaving most likely this year, I think it would be stupid to re-sign him. As much as I love the dude, I don't think he's worth $13 million a year. I think that's a really stupid cap hit.
Yeah.
I think they should just move him to play inside the box and just draft another dude to play as more of a traditional strong safety role and just have him play that run. Because that's what he wants to do.
And Pete Carroll is such a good coach that there's a lot of really solid safeties that you could take for a very good price and coach them to be incredibly good.
Yeah, it's the similar way I felt way back in the day. He was the coach at USC. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
And then he got promoted to play in the big leagues with the Hawks. Taylor Mays was one of my favorite dudes. He actually came to the Niners, which I was happy about. But they should have drafted him and moved him to outside linebacker. I think that's the same thing. Jamal's a little smaller. He's like 6 foot flat maybe.
Yeah. But he's also not very heavy, but he's fast, which is good. I mean,
yeah, it's true. He's
speaking
not
of
the biggest
fast, can we talk about DK Metcalf?
DK Metcalf is a freak, especially He's like 1.2 mil on cap or something like that. He's an absurdly low amount for the production he generates.
I know.
That dude's a freak.
I keep going back to whenever somebody tries to dispute me on that. I keep going back to, and not many people do, but I mean that play where he ran down Budda Baker against the Cardinals. I mean,
he was on a full-on sprint.
Loss for word. It was 21 or 22 miles per hour.
He looked like an Olympic sprinter, especially with that dark visor.
Yeah,
he looked like a freak.
And he's what, 6'4", 225?
He's massive.
He's a massive, and he's fast, and he's agile. And there's only a couple things that can be still trained out. Because I mean, you have to think about it. He's still in his second year. Like,
oh, obviously, I think his route running could use a little bit of work. I think his hands, especially on
his
jump
hands,
balls.
especially his
Yeah.
hands. That's what I was thinking about. And also his presence in terms of being present in the moment, whatever he's doing. Where I saw a lot of the times when he would drop those balls, it wasn't necessarily about how much work his hands needed, but how much work his visuals needed, and where his brain was at. Because you would see where he'd see Russ setting up to throw a pass to him, and he'd reach his hands out and he'd look the other way as he was going to try and take off, and then he would just miss the ball.
He's worried about taking a hit.
Exactly, he jumps the gun a little bit, but as long as Pete Carroll and like Brian Schottenheimer can train that out of him. Oh wait, did they fire Schottenheimer or did he leave?
I think Schottenheimer left. Although I'm not certain.
When their offensive coordinator and Pete Carroll can train that out of him and train him to be present in the moment and focus on catching the ball, then getting out of there, that's what will be a turning point, and I think will make him just infinitely better, even more than he already is.
Yeah, he's currently in Jacksonville.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he just got picked up. Yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense. Of course, it's the Jaguars.
Yeah, but anyway, so let's talk about, now that we've kind of talked about how the Seahawks, they made it happen in the first half of the season, and then just in the second half, and especially in the playoffs, they just kind of choked a little bit. On your side, let's talk about the 49ers. I mean, how do you think they did this season?
I mean, it was obviously injuries. That was the big thing that hit us. MetLife turf did not do well for us. We had like 8 ACLs, 8 ACLs coming out of week 2. It was absurd. It was not. Yep. It was not fun.
Not good. Most ACLs torn in one season record, right, or something like that.
Yeah, it was some record like that.
That's crazy. And we also found out that your second string quarterback, Nick Mullins, is way better than Jimmy Garoppolo, in my humble opinion.
Nick Mullins is a freak, yeah.
I think Jimmy Garoppolo is really great at handing the ball off to really good players that the 49ers could draft. But anytime you see him try and pass the ball, anytime you see him kind of even like his pocket presence, I mean, it's just not there.
He's got a really good release, and I think that comes from Tom Brady. But he's just nothing special, especially for how much he's getting paid. He's getting paid an absurd amount of money.
It's ridiculous.
I think it's one of those things that you kind of have to give up on at some point, especially with Trent Williams on his last year. I think Sherman's probably going to retire after this year, if I'm being real.
Oh, yeah, I think so, too.
Jaquaski Tart, Juszczyk, Coleman, Bourne, Quan Williams. A lot of guys are up for big contract extensions.
Yeah, I think losing Bosa was also pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, our entire D-line just got so wrecked.
Yeah. I would go as far to say as Nick Bosa was the man on your defensive line, and losing him was a huge hit to
obviously,
morale, and also I think there was a strong sense of leadership and morale that came from him because of the fact he was a rookie. He was incredibly, his performances were incredible, and just I can't imagine that had any positive effect on anyone on the defensive side. So
I'm glad Warner really stepped into that leader role, though. I'm glad
that's
about that.
True.
Fred Warner is a freak.
He is. And kind of moving down the West Coast, after talking about the 49ers in San Francisco, let's go to the Rams, which is an interesting team in the postseason, no?
They really were. I think if Leonard Floyd doesn't bail that game for them, they have a shot against the Packers. Right? Leonard Floyd gave up like 2 easy touchdowns. And then that one that everyone blames on Jalen Ramsey was also on him. If you play
that's
the motion to Devontae Adams. It was a beautiful play call, but he needs to, he had his head in the sand on that. I don't know what's up with that.
I agree. I mean, and even after their season ended, I think where I really started to pay attention to the Rams was what they were doing with all the trading. I mean, you think about I feel like they lost that, and we were talking about that earlier. I feel like they lost that trade.
After that and Ramsey, they don't have a first rounder until 2024.
And I mean, you think about it's just not worth it. Like Matthew Stafford is a good quarterback, and Jared Goff kind of needed to go, but that not having a first round pick for so long, I don't know if it's worth it. Because you think about their problem with Jared Goff was that he was consistently inconsistent. But what his problem was is he would either play amazingly or he would play terribly. And Matthew Stafford's problem is that he either plays well or not so well. So what they saw is that rather than having someone who played terribly half the time, you have someone that plays better, but still not well half the time. So the margin of inconsistency is lower. So if Jared Goff is out here with being really great and really terrible, Matthew Stafford is in here being okay and not so okay. And I guess it was worth it for them, but like I don't really know. I mean, it's trainable. Like I feel like they could have trained Jared Goff to be not as inconsistent, but they just got rid of him. I don't understand personally.
I just don't think that's a good idea. I think maybe move a first and a second, trade up and get a try and get one of the QBs in the draft. I think Trey Lance looks absurdly good. I think Trey Lance is, other than Trevor Lawrence, of course, because he's a freak. I think he's almost as good as Zach Wilson for a much later pick.
Yeah. I mean,
especially at North Dakota State. I don't think Kyle Trask too. He's a good option. I don't think Mac Jones is though.
And even it's kind of meh. Even looking at the NFL, there are guys like Deshaun Watson who wanted to leave. And Deshaun Watson is a good quarterback. Like that trade, they could have worked a trade there for a pretty good deal on a great quarterback.
I agree. Since the Texans also don't have firsts or seconds for 2 years, I think you could have gotten Watson for a very similar deal. I wouldn't be surprised if they offered something.
Yeah.
And Watson just didn't want to come to the Rams for some reason. Watt wants out too. It's possible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, J.J. Watt, Packers possibly, because that's his home area.
Yeah. And did you hear that Aaron Rodgers was considering leaving the Packers? I don't know. Maybe that was just speculation, but I heard that he might be ready to depart. The Rams, the first team they called actually was the Packers, and they said no, he's not up for trade. So yeah, he's gonna stay with the Packers at least next year. All right. I mean, that makes sense. What do you think about Drew Brees is kind of switching gears to the AFC South? What do you think about Drew Brees' final performance in the NFL? I mean,
I think you could pretty clearly see the pain in his eyes when he left that Superdome for the last time.
I agree. And I feel like had he been playing 100% or had he been feeling 100%, they would own that game. He wasn't in it mentally or physically. I mean, going up against such a strong team in the Bucs, especially after what happened earlier in the season, that's a fast recovery time for how serious of an injury he took at his age. I don't understand how he even played that game personally.
The Saints are playing a really dangerous game.
Yeah.
Because they're 103 million or something like that over cap. They're absurd. But I think what they did this season was they intentionally kept Winston on the bench because he's on a 1-year deal so that they can re-sign him next year for an absurdly low amount of money.
Oh, yeah.
And then keep him as their starter for the future for, 5-6 years. Mm-hmm. Because if they had started him this year, some team would have been willing to pay, 20 mil a year for him.
Yeah.
But now they can re-sign him for 2.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a smart play, but they are playing with fire for sure.
Yeah, they really are. Because if he doesn't work out, they're gonna have to give up draft picks to the NFL, just forfeit them.
Yeah.
Because of draft issues or because of cap issues. So they're just I don't know.
It's a massive gamble, and it's all riding on how Jameis Winston can perform next season.
Exactly, especially with guys like Kamara.
I was just about
making
to say
a lot of money. I don't. Okay, my theory is I don't think you can pay running backs at all. That's my same idea with Chris Carson is expiring for the Hawks this year. I don't think if he's asking for more than 10 mil a year, I think it's absurd to pay him that. I think
there's so many good running backs.
Exactly. Unless you're Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, or Dalvin Cook, I don't think you can get paid.
I agree, and I think Chris Carson had I think Chris Carson had the possibility of getting. I don't know how. I mean, he's a good running back. I'm just gonna call it spade a spade. He's not great. He's fast. His legs are strong. I mean, he can keep powering through. But we also have great running backs.
I mean, Hyde's walking too, but yeah, I think giving a guy like DJ Dallas.
Exactly. That's exactly who I was going to say. DJ Dallas he is a stunningly good running back for a third string.
He looked way better inside the tackles last year than he did in college, really.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously received a lot of training, and I think he could be a real weapon if he's trained right, which I think they have the capacity to do. I think Pete Carroll's an amazing coach and one of the best in the NFL. But
I will disagree with you on that right there. I think he is the most overrated coach in the NFL.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Because look, play calling has significantly gone down since guys like Dan Quinn left, and he just, I don't know. I really think Dan Quinn helped him so much, and since then they just haven't been able to put something together.
But don't you think that play calling falls on the shoulders of coordinators rather than the head coach?
Look at San Francisco, look at LA, the two other teams in the division with really great coaches. Sean McVay's calling all the play calls. Even Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona is calling most of his plays.
Yeah, but you're thinking about you're talking about it's more of a difference in between whether you're taking it in your own hands or you're trusting your people. And so by trusting your people, it can go one of two ways. And with him, it's gone. And I think he's really smart about doing that because it instills confidence in those people and allows them to perform at a higher level. On the flip side of that, he's not in control of what his team is doing, which can be dangerous.
I think he needs to stop chewing 10 packs of gum per game and maybe I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
Maybe take a little bit more control. I don't know.
I think so. I think he can be too hands off at times, but I also think that there is a good balance to strike there. And I think there are some control freak coaches that don't get the performance that they want out of their team for that reason.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Bill Belichick, there's your grade A example right there.
He managed to make a team out of a bunch of grocery boys for the longest time.
It's true, but
look at his receivers.
As soon as Tom Brady started wanting to coach, as soon as Tom Brady wanted to start being the captain, essentially. And by the way, I'm not saying I like Tom Brady at all, but
I want to make that absurdly clear.
We'll get into that later. But as soon as Tom Brady wanted to take a little bit of control and be that team captain, Bill Belichick literally wanted him out. Like, it was that quick.
I mean, Belichick wanted Garoppolo to be the starter when he was on the Pats, but Brady just didn't want it. And
exactly. And so
Kraft sided with Brady.
And that element, that fear of losing control of your team is what sinks you, because then those players who feel unheard are just going to leave. Tom Brady being a prime example.
Do you think that the Patriots were an obvious flop this year?
Oh, right? Yeah.
Like they did not do well. I mean, they just had so many flashes.
I know.
Cam played like an MVP against the Seahawks, but then he played like a third string quarterback for several other games.
I don't understand. It's just like the same with Jared Goff, consistently inconsistent.
Exactly, yeah. How do you think it's the system, or do you think it's Cam being washed?
I don't know. I think it's both. I think Cam Newton has the ability to play just as long as Tom Brady has. I think that's possible, but I think that he needs to be, again, he's such a strong, he has such a large personality that I think you have to find a team that's willing to trust his judgment. And Bill Belichick is not the coach who's willing to trust that guy's judgment in making calls.
Yeah, I can see that. He definitely needs the ability to have the whole playbook at the line.
Yeah, his Bill Belichick's coaching style requires a very formable quarterback that's going to listen to what he says. He's going to act on what he says, and he's going to be and allow himself to be trained the way that Bill Belichick wants him trained. that, and I'm not saying Bill Belichick is a bad coach. I'm just saying his coaching style is different, and he can't have players that want to do their own thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think a good place for Cam would be somewhere like Denver.
Exactly.
And then Denver also can draft their own quarterback in the draft this year. Let him compete for the starting job. Let Cam know he has the job through week 3. After that, it's a free for all. Like what happened, unfortunately, to the or fortunately both to the Chargers. I really like Tyrod Taylor. I don't because of man. I played with him for years. I loved him. Right. I used to always play as the Bills because he was so glitchy. I mean, yeah, he straight up was. But he got stabbed in the lung, and then Herbert took over and is arguably the offensive rookie of the year if it wasn't for Jefferson.
Yep. I mean, you have a solid team there, but there's just a couple fatal flaws that don't allow them to perform at the top of their game.
I mean, for every what was it, something like 8 games, they were within 1 score.
I know.
In the last minute, they were just so close to so many games.
I know. It's just those couple of downfalls that the team hasn't. Maybe I will go out on a limb and say if they can get those little pieces smoothed out, they've got a solid playoff run for next season. But I don't know.
Absolutely.
But I don't know if they can smooth those things out. Is the only problem.
I mean, they've arguably got a top 5 receiving core. Mike Williams is the best jump ball guy in the NFL.
Well.
No, nobody. I don't really love DK Metcalf, but
DeAndre Hopkins. I'm just gonna say it. I mean, you saw his jump ball
against the Bills. That
was one of the receiving plays of the season. I would venture to say
that was arguably the best play of the season. Just because
that was
the context.
Amazing. That is like number 2 off of DK's Buda Baker play. So it goes DK's Buda Baker play. No, come on.
You get your opinion. You get your opinion.
You don't say that. You don't see that and not say that that's like one of the best plays. It's one of the best plays I've ever seen. Like
it was
that
pretty nuts.
Up there. That is up there with I think it was against the Rams. Yeah. Last season. Tyler Lockett's toe drag
his
swag.
Nuts catch. Oh my
nuts
god.
Catch. That is like number 2 off of DK's rundown, and then number 3 has to be the D-Hop play against the Bills. That was crazy. Yeah. Speaking of the Bills, let's talk about the Bills for a little while. I mean,
yes, Josh Allen, big hands, rocket arm, looks good in shorts.
Yep.
That's his draft profile coming out of Wyoming. I just think that's so
that was
funny.
Awesome.
He's a character.
He is. But like him or not, he played well.
He did.
He gave him a good run.
I really think they definitely won that Stephon Diggs trade.
Yep, for sure. I think he had a great. I think they could have made it if Patrick Mahomes wasn't so good.
He was playing with turf toe too. So he couldn't, if you look at his how he dispersed the ball that game, he threw like 3 passes to the left.
I know.
Everything was just going to the right half of the field because he just couldn't rotate his toe enough.
I know.
Oh my god, he's a freak.
He is, and he's a gymnast, which like you see those sidearm passes.
Oh yeah.
He can throw around people. He is a freak of nature.
Absolutely.
And
I see the baseball in him.
Yeah, had Patrick Mahomes not been the superhuman that he is, I think Josh Allen would be in the Super Bowl this year.
Oh, yeah. And I think if Rodgers has more help, I think he's absolutely in the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. I think, for sure. And I personally think I would have loved to see Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen in the Super Bowl. I think that would have been really cool. But
that would have been absurdly cool.
Patrick Mahomes, I knew the Chiefs were going to be in the Super Bowl this year. I hope to God that the Bucs weren't going to be, but that happened. So, I mean, I don't like Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it. Credit where credit is due. He's been in a game for a long time, but I think he's overhyped. I think he's grossly overrated, and I'm not going to get too far into it being emotional about it because I don't know. But
I mean, yeah, absolutely. He's had like 11 top 5 defenses.
Yeah. He's carried really by his team consistently.
Yeah, he threw 3 picks in the second half of that game against Rodgers,
and they still won.
Yeah, they still won. It was combined bad coaching and bad defense. Exactly. Rodgers, the only significant Rodgers mistake, I don't think he could have run that ball on the 3rd down where he was scrambling to the right. It looked like he could have, but he definitely would have been stopped. He had a couple of guys on him. But why are you're down? They were down by like a score or something like that. Yeah. They elected to go for 3. Your defense can't hold.
They literally could have done it. They could have won that game.
If they go for 7, they win that game.
They would have won. Doubts. If they hadn't kicked that field goal, they would have won the game. I can almost say that with like 90% confidence.
Oh, and absolutely.
If they had gone for 7, they would have won that game.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It was that one play, and I think you just need an offensive coordinator who can see that. It's the last game. It's potentially your last game of the season. This is not the time to play it safe with a field goal.
I mean, it's potentially the last game with your quarterback that's been there for a decade.
Exactly. You don't play it safe in that situation, and by playing it safe in that situation, they ruin their chances of going to the Super Bowl. So. Yeah, watching that game just made me sad because I wanted to see Aaron Rodgers win. I love him. I think he's an amazing quarterback. I think he's been playing really well.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to see him in the Super Bowl, but I don't know. That call just confused me so much.
What do you think about Dak Prescott though? He's an unrestricted free agent coming off a rookie deal. He looks. I mean, do you think I've seen him ranked anywhere from top 5 to outside the top 10.
I know. I don't really know. I don't follow the Cowboys very much. I can't speak on their situation too much. But
I hate the Cowboys.
I think Dak Prescott is a good quarterback.
Yeah.
I think he's a good quarterback, hands down. I think putting him on a team that has I think he's a good leader as well. I think he has that personality, and you can see he's very mentally strong. With everything that happened this season, he kept a positive attitude. And I think that's a great way for teams to look at him and say, wow, this guy has a really strong moral character and probably a really strong mental game. Looking at that, I think a team who isn't over their cap, who's been underperforming and who has the budget for him, if you take a team like maybe the Eagles.
Eagles are screwed on cap, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. But if you take a team that has a decent foundation, but just needs that one piece and give them Dak Prescott, they could win the Super Bowl.
They're absolutely.
He could single-handedly take a team from worst to best, but just because of how much of a leader he is. So giving him to a team that have been underperforming a little bit, the Jets, the Eagles, the Falcons, any of those teams, and maybe even I don't know if the Dolphins would be willing to give up their quarterback. I don't think he's.
Tua?
I don't.
I don't think Tua. I think it's too early to call him a bust for sure. But the injury concerns coming out of Bama. I don't think he was worth that draft pick.
Nope, me
10th?
neither.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. 8th or 10th or something.
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, I think if you give and with a guy like Myles Gaskin who is an absolute weapon when he's trained right. I mean, he was a Husky, got drafted out of UW, and then went to the Dolphins and single-handedly took them for a pretty good ride. Like that's the best record they've had in a while.
Brian Flores is an amazing coach. He looks really good.
So I think giving them a guy like Dak Prescott would be great, but I don't know if they're willing to give up Tua yet. So it's just finding a team for him that he can coach. And again, not having a coach like Bill Belichick who's really engrossed in having a lot of control. Find a team where you have this guy who could be more relatable than a head coach.
Than Emperor Palpatine.
Exactly. And let them and let him lead the team to victory and you just be along for the ride. That's what I would do with Dak Prescott.
Let him be his own player, I guess.
Exactly. Let him be his own player and let him influence the team in a positive way.
Cleveland with their first playoff run in 20 years, something like that.
Something like that. I mean, I don't know. I can't really talk about I don't know. Baker Mayfield is just kind of, yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't. I don't like him personally, especially with his. He's a jock. He reminds me of Manziel a little bit.
Yeah. He's just kind of flat for me.
He's a very Browns quarterback. Flashy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not. You can see the potentials there, and he's definitely reined it in.
Yeah,
I remember
so. Since last season, I think he's reined it in for sure.
I remember sending you a meme in like week 2 where he made this throw where his feet were both like his feet were even with his shoulders, and he was just like trying to whip the ball. And just the progress he's made since then is pretty amazing.
I think it's a testament to how good he can be, but I think right now I can't speak. But kind of talking, shifting gears a little bit because we've been talking about the other teams for a while. Let's talk about the Chiefs and the Bucks. I mean, that matchup coming up, Mahomes versus Brady, is going to be insane.
It is going to be nuts.
I am personally very excited to watch it. I am 100% rooting for the Chiefs. I don't know about you.
I'm not rooting for anybody. I'll tell you that much. Chiefs were not nice to us last year.
I know. I knew that. Oh my gosh. Okay, funny side story. So Riley and I, we know each other because we went to the same school, and at that school, you get to go on a 1-month international trip every year in January and February. So guess where we were for the Super Bowl?
We were in Peru.
We were in Peru for the Super Bowl, and we were staying at a hostel that had like a 40-inch TV.
Oh, that thing was massive. That was a massive TV.
And it had the Super Bowl on in English. And all of the 10 kids on our trip watched it. And Riley was the only one rooting for the 49ers. And guess who won?
Okay, no. I want to make this clear. You, Joseph, and Henry were only rooting for the Chiefs just to piss me off. I want to make that clear.
I'm still rooting for the Chiefs. I love Patrick Mahomes. I do. I think he's a great quarterback.
That was out of pure hatred. You know that just as well as I do.
Yeah, no, it was like half and half. But yeah, that was a great time.
That was a great time.
It was a great time, and that's why he and I, or you and I, are so close, is because we had that time together. But it was really fun watching the 49ers lose. I have to say it.
You enjoyed it?
I did.
The Chiefs looked They what was it? During the regular season, they had a bottom 5 red zone offense. They had the worst red zone defense in the league by a long shot, and they just play different playoff football.
Yep.
I mean, obviously being the 1 seed helps.
Yeah, but it's like there was a switch that flipped or something. I mean, they started playing really well. And they were playing okay just to get by. They knew they were seeded. It was great. I mean,
yeah, they were 14-2.
Yeah,
obviously they're
a great they're a great team. They did just enough to get by, which I think is a testament to how good Patrick Mahomes is when you're playing 14-2 and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know that he's a great quarterback. So I'm excited to see what he can pull off
the Super Bowl.
I'm very excited.
I mean, if he does win this, he's got 2 rings, an MVP, possibly another Super Bowl MVP.
Oh yeah.
All in his first 5 years. That's absurd. That's unheard of.
It's crazy. I think he's gearing up to be one of the best players of all time.
I think it's his 5th year. I think it's too early to call that, but I can see that in the future.
I could call it with 50% certainty.
I mean, look at Cam Newton. In 2015, he was...
That's true.
Look at him now. There's just a lot of examples of that.
Yeah.
But I can see that. I can see
him becoming really, really good, but I can also see him, I don't know, because you think about injuries and stuff and how...
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like how your whole career can end in just a second. So I can call it, if he stays healthy, I can call it within 50% certainty.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he could Ryan Shazier himself.
Yeah,
right? And just snap his vertebrae, and then he's done.
He's done.
Not walking.
Nope. So it just really depends.
Yeah.
On the other hand, let's talk about a quarterback who has routinely been called the best player of all time, Senor Tom Brady. What do you think?
He will play until the heat death of the universe.
Yep.
He will never
retire.
Yeah, I think Frank Gore's coming back next season. At 37 years old, he is coming back next season.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's a freak.
That's insane.
But Tom Brady, was he like 40, 42, something like that?
42.
He's really old.
What do you think about his playing and how he's played throughout the years and how the public image of him, how that's kind of set up?
I think he's playing good but not great this season, but I don't think he's what the Bucs need.
I don't think so either.
I mean, look at the receivers. They got Mike Evans, who is a god, especially on deep balls and sideline, anything outside. That's where he does well. But Brady's been checking down to running backs and slant routes for the past, 20 years.
And and they've got a good slant runner in Antonio Brown, but
Antonio Clown is something else.
But
yeah.
I don't know. There's not a lot to say about him, really. I mean, I'm just kind of at a loss for words. Yeah, he's kind of another one of those guys where I'm just like,
You don't want him to win, but he eventually will.
Yeah, it's just they're kind of a meh team for me right now, especially with Tom Brady, who I obviously, as you've heard by now, I don't think the highest up. But again, they have good players, but they're just no standouts.
For who, the Bucs?
Well, I mean, just like.
I mean, there's absolutely standouts.
But there's no. I mean, I'm talking more of like a characteristic sense. There's obviously good players, but there's no one who can really.
There's no vocal leaders.
Exactly. There's no one who will really guide the team to victory.
I mean, there's Levante David on the defense, but yes, I see what you're saying. There are a lot of really quiet players. There's Devin Bush. There's Antonio Brown is a little more vocal, but he knows to shut the fuck up overall after his stint with the Raiders and Pats.
Yeah, it's just like there's not that one guy like a Dak Prescott, like a Russell Wilson, like a Aaron Rodgers, like a Patrick Mahomes, like a Drew Brees. All of these players, he's just not the guy. He's not
the vocal leader.
He's not the one guy. So, and I think the best part about having Tom Brady is having another player on the team who can lead that team just like way better. Like, I don't know, someone who's even a little bit more vocal, like Rob Gronkowski.
Gronk is
but he's not a great leader.
He's a frat boy. Just because he's loud does not mean loud does not equal vocal.
Exactly. So you have to find, like, I'm racking my brain for a good example of that on the Patriots, but
Edelman.
There you go. So there's these guys who can lead the team in the absence of Tom Brady's leadership, and you don't have that on the Bucs. And
Tom Brady can go kiss his kids on the lips or whatever again.
Exactly. And sometimes Tom Brady, when he steps out, and like I was saying, it's exactly the Bill Belichick dilemma, right? Because you have Tom Brady who's not super vocal, and then Bill Belichick who is very vocal, and he leads the team. And then suddenly Tom Brady's like from the corner, he's like, hey, I want to lead a little bit now. And then Bill Belichick is like, no, out, right? And so I think he worked really well on the Patriots because he was quiet and Bill Belichick was vocal, right? And that dynamic worked. It's as simple as that. And now you put him on a team with a coach who isn't vocal, he's not vocal, and there's no standout player who's vocal. Then what do you get? You just get a team that's like, Yeah. I just kind of shrug my shoulders at him. I'm like,
Yeah. Tom Brady's an interesting case because never in his career. I mean, obviously the best comparison for him would be the most common comparison is him versus Rodgers. Yeah. The two best QBs of the generation by a decent margin. I guess I would throw like Brees in there.
Yeah.
And Ryan a little bit. Matt Ryan is criminally underrated for his career, by the way.
That's
a Hall of Fame caliber player.
Yeah. That's true. You don't hear a lot about him, but he is good.
He's really good. But look, between all the 2008, I think Brady hurt his knee, and a couple years ago when he had the suspension, through all the career games that Brady has missed, the Patriots are like 11-4, something like that. and the Packers are 5-9, maybe. It's just absurd how, Brady gets away with a lot of crap.
I know. It's crazy. It's because he got the teams to carry him.
Yeah. Final prediction, I think 31-24 Chiefs.
31-24. I'm going to go a little bit bigger of a margin than that. I'm going to say it's going to be at least 38.
Yeah.
Before we end off, let's quickly talk about the home field advantage.
Yeah, that's the first time in NFL history.
It is. And how do you think that's going to play out, especially with fans in the stadium?
I think the fans are not going to be as many Bucks as you would think. There are going to be quite a few Bucks, but I think there are going to be a lot of Chiefs there, especially with how the NFL manages it. It's probably going to be maybe 75-25, I would guess.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing with that is how the Bucs Stadium is set up. So there's the pirate cannons. I don't think it's going to play a huge factor, but I think it is going to be a little bit of a factor.
It is something to look at for sure, especially when considering the outcome. And I think, a lot of people are going to just, if the Bucs indeed win, which I think there's a very slim chance of that happening, but if they do win, there's going to be a bunch of raving Chiefs fans who are going to go, oh, they had home field advantage. And I think it's going to be kind of the scapegoat for the fact that the Bucs won, if they do win.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more excuses you could do. Brady always gets bailed out by the refs. It's kind of a classic thing that happens.
And then, gets bailed out by the refs and then goes to high-five them.
Goes to high-five the ref, yeah.
I mean, that's a valid excuse, though.
If there's something actually happening, yeah, that's not good. If it's just like calls consistently go his way, but they're not intentionally going his way, I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah.
Calls do happen.
I kind of feel like he got lucky against the Packers with that.
He got really lucky.
Calls.
Yeah.
That one jersey call after they've been letting him play the whole game, that was a little bit.
There was an image I saw that was the end zone angle, and there was a pretty clear face mask. A dude was coming off the edge. There's a pretty clear face mask.
I saw it.
Yeah, and they didn't. A pretty clear face mask. The right tackle was blocking this dude. Right, pretty clear face mask on him. They should have called a penalty on the Bucs, set it back. But the tiniest shove, it was like a tap, and the receiver fell. Pass interference. It was absurd.
It was actually insane. I watched that and I was like, "Come on."
Yeah.
It's so.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have much to say. Like, is there a big conspiracy? Is he paying the rest? I don't know. But, we'll see.
Yes, we will see. Super Bowl's on Sunday.
Everybody watch it. It's going to be a good game.
Yep. Be safe. Follow COVID protocols, whatever. But watch the game.
Everybody stay safe. Don't have a party. But make some good game day snacks.
Yep.
Once again, I'm Max Mariotti. Thanks for listening. Joined by my co-host
Riley Amelia. Adios, boy.
All right. Adios, everybody.
Adios.
Thanks for watching.